Your competitors have already spent 50,000 euros figuring out which international markets are actually profitable. They've tested different countries, spent money on content and rankings, and discovered which keywords drive revenue in Germany, UK, France, or wherever they were operating. And all of that intelligence is sitting there completely visible if you know where to look. So in this video, I'm showing you exactly how to reverse engineer your competitors' international strategies. So you can skip the guessing and go straight to the markets and keywords that are already proven to work. Here's the thing about international expansion. Most brands do it backwards. They pick a country based on gut feeling or market size, launch a translated website, spend 6 months wondering why nobody's buying, and then they either double down on the wrong market or they retreat entirely. I've watched e-commerce brands burn through the entire expansion budget, testing markets that were never going to work for them in the first place. And meanwhile, their competitor quietly dominates in a country they never even considered. What's the difference? The difference is that the successful brands didn't guess. They used data. Specifically, they used their competitors' data, because here's what nobody actually tells you about international SEO. Your competitors have already done the expensive research. They figured out which countries have demand, which keywords actually convert, and where the content gaps are. And they also looked where they can build authority without fighting entrenched local players. That intelligence is public. You just need to know how to extract it. Think about it in this way. Every time your competitor ranks for a keyword in Germany, that's a signal. Every blog post they write in French, that's another signal. And every backlink they earn from a UK website, that's another signal. And when you add up all those signals, you get a complete map of their international strategy, where they're winning, where they're weak, and most importantly, where you can beat them. So this isn't guessing, and this also isn't copying. This is strategic intelligence. And the brands that succeed internationally are the ones that don't waste money on failed expansions. They all do this. They let their competitors pay the dump tax, and then they learn from it. So today, I'm walking you through that exact process. 5 steps, no fluff, and just the intelligence gathering that separates profitable international expansion from expensive mistakes. Let's dive into this right away now. Alright guys, as discussed, here's the full system, 5 steps to help you with your international SEO intelligence system. So I'm first going to discuss the steps again. So the first step is identifying the markets of your competitors and looking at their traffic distribution. The second step is uncovering their keywords by country, because local terms matter. The third step is auditing their content strategy and finding those gaps. The fourth step is checking their backlink authority per country, because authority is local. And then the fifth step is using all that data to make the correct market decision. And this is the difference between expanding with data and expanding with hope. So let's get into it. I prepared a detailed presentation. I am obviously going to share this after this video, so you can find it in the description and you can utilize it for yourself. What are we going to discuss? We are going to discuss why most international expansions fail. Then we're going to look at how your competitors already did the research. Then we're going to dive into the international SEO intelligence framework, and we're going to walk through all these steps. And at the end of this presentation and video, I have prepared a lot of frequently asked questions. So it's about 15 questions that a lot of people have. I answered them within this presentation. I'm not going to discuss them, but you can check them out after this video if you might have any questions that remain. The first thing, why do most international SEO expansions fail? The first thing why they fail is because a lot of people and marketing teams have big market bias. So they choose a country based on gut feeling. So for example, hey, we want to scale in the US because there's a lot of people there and we can sell a lot of our product there. But they forget that the barrier to entry is way higher, that it could be way more expensive than they initially thought. And there is obviously 10 times more competition than in a small country like Georgia or any other small country. So there's a lot more involved to find the correct country than just following volume, following all those kind of gut feeling things that not necessarily mean that it's a good country to scale to. So you want to find Goldilocks markets, which are markets with high demand and low competition first, because you can make money easier there. You can enter the market faster and you will thus make easier profits that you can utilize to target more competitive countries. The second thing that I see go wrong a lot of times is a one-size-fits-all keyword strategy, where there is pretty much translated keywords all over the board, not looking at local intent, not looking at local culture, using the wrong keywords in a specific country. And that changes a lot and it just doesn't work. So it's very important to do your keyword research per country and then also look at all these local nuances, because a keyword in the US and the UK can already differ. And if you use the wrong context, you will just fail. The third thing is using thin translations with Google Translate or any other fully automated translation engine that ties into the problem I discussed before here, the one-size-fits-all keywords, but using fin translations just doesn't work anymore because Google is filtering out low-value, unoriginal pages, and it will just mean that your strategy will either work short-term or will not work at all. The fourth thing that we see happening a lot of times is a broken international SEO setup with the wrong href length structure, loads of errors that have to do with your international SEO configuration in the backend of your CMS, which can differ. So the setup for Shopify, Magento, or WordPress is slightly different, and it's very important to nail this aspect right from the beginning, because if you have a website with thousands of pages in multiple countries and you have technical issues, it's a freaking nightmare to solve, and it will straight diminish your results in all these countries. And then another thing that we're seeing is like a half-hearted content footprint. So you can imagine that the content strategy in a country like Germany can significantly be different than, for example, targeting a country in the UAE, because people search differently, they have different cultural nuances, they have other questions because it's way hotter in the UAE than in Germany, for example, in relation to a product or a product category. And this is very important to look at. Another thing that happens is that brands just translate 5 pages in Germany, whilst their main country website has 100 or 200 pages. So Google will think like, yeah, but you only translated or you only worked on 5 pages in this specific country. Why should I give you rankings there? It's important to work on a country, work it out with depth, and really structure it in a serious way where you just target everything that relates to that specific country. So no half-hearted attempts. That just doesn't work. And another thing, the last thing that goes wrong a lot of times is having no local authority signals. So no local backlinks, so German backlinks for the German website, French backlinks for the French website, having citations in all these countries, so being mentioned in local business directories, doing PR locally, having no presence there with backlinks is just going to work a bit, but it's never going to have the maximum effect, because local players do have this, so you need to align with this as well. You need to have these local signals. So if you look at what the winners do, and this is a real winner, it's Mace, one of our founders. And what winners actually do when they want to scale internationally is, first, they want to reverse engineer competitors, then check traffic per country, check local keywords, create content depth in the site architecture and in the content strategy itself, then create a reliable, good local backlink footprint, and then pick the easiest profitable market first, scale that up, and then start scaling to multiple countries. So that is why most international SEO expansions fail and how you can actually win. All right, going to the next piece of the presentation is, again, well, this is a visual aspect of why these things go wrong. So the bottom line is international SEO fails when brands treat it like a translation project and not a market entry strategy. And it starts with picking the wrong market. It starts with using generic keywords and then auto-translating content and having a lot of technical errors. It's pretty much what I just discussed. So the next step is your competitors are competing with you and are basically ranking in these markets. They have a working strategy. It works for them. So that means they have pretty much already done everything that you need to know. So you should look at every ranking signal that you can find. So if there are a lot of competitors, there is demand, right? And there is a lot of intent for people in that country to buy products. So do your research first. If there is a lot of competition, then you probably know, okay, there's demand and there's a lot of customers that we can serve. Another thing that the competitors already have is a lot of backlinks. So you can pretty much extract all their backlink profiles, and from there on you can see, okay, how much backlinks do these competitors have? What's the quality of them? How much budget should we have to attain the same or better results? And another thing is content, obviously. So you can extract their sitemaps. You can look at their content quality. You can look at which pages have the most traffic in their content strategy to see, okay, what's actually driving the results for these brands and what are the main important things that we see in their content strategy. Another thing is looking at how deep do competitors go in this market. So how big should the content strategy be and which structure is aligned? Which use cases are being used? What type of modifiers are being used? So which specific situations are clients searching for in these countries? So it's not only doing research in terms of how the content strategy looks, it's also seeing, okay, how people in these countries actually solve the problems with the product we sell. So it also gives insight into the customer journey per country. And the last thing is you can look at the whole strategy this brand has deployed for that specific country. And you can see, see a lot of insights from there. So people might say, hey, this is copying, this is just copy pasting. No, it's not. It's just gathering all the intelligence from competitors that actually perform in these markets. So again, every time that you see these signals happening, so seeing that a competitor ranks for certain keywords in Germany, or earn backlinks from a certain country, or publish content in a certain language, this is just public data that tells you what's winning, where they basically suck, and how you can beat them. And it is super interesting because this is a way how successful brands can just avoid expensive mistakes, see where the competitor is slacking, and it also pretty much helps you avoid a lot of costs, a lot of problems later on. So just learn from it and take this into account when you start to implement your international SEO strategy. Right now, we are going to dive into the actual workflow that we have, the step-by-step framework that we have to gather all this international SEO intelligence. And that starts with identifying the markets and traffic. So first you want to discover which countries your competitors are actually targeting and where they are getting this traffic from. So you're not going to only look at their website and see which flags they have, which translations they use. No, you're actually going to use a specific tool like Ahrefs or SEMrush to really discover where is the traffic coming from, where are they spending the most money, and why are they doing that. That's the first step you should actually take. Then the second step is uncovering local keywords. So pulling the specific keywords they rank for in each market and looking at how is the keyword clustering done in this country. So how do they differ from each other? So are US cluster of keywords different than the UK cluster of keywords? Because you might think, it's both English, it will be the same, but you will see later on in this video and presentation that that is absolutely not the case. The third step is auditing their content strategy. So seeing where do they actually invest the most money. Is their content strategy in the UK way better developed than, for example, in Germany or in France? Or is this a UK brand that is almost spending as much money in Germany as they are in the UK? And why are they not spending as much money in Italy, right? So looking at that is very important. Then evaluating the backlink authority to see how much money was actually spent in digital PR campaigns, in backlink campaigns for all these countries, and how long have they spent budget on these types of campaigns. So you can actually see how they have spent it, how fast they gained results, and you can also see where they might be vulnerable. So maybe they already have great traffic in France, and you see that they currently only have built 40 backlinks, which is not a lot, and you see they have a lot of traffic, and you think France is an interesting market for you, and all the other data is showing that, hey, maybe it's good to go to France and then invest in 150 backlinks compared to 40 of your competitor, because then you will surpass them and you will get the traffic. So all these things tie into decision making. And that's the last step, again, is make your decision based on all these aspects that you have researched in the 4 steps before here. So make no guesswork and really make your entry choice based on opportunity, but also on rationality. So look at how much do we actually need to spend to compete and not just go with gut feeling alone. So guys, the first step that you need to take is looking where your competitors are actually winning. And step 1 is, ironically, the step where most people skip. And it's weird because it's actually where the money is. So you want to know 2 things. The first thing you want to know is, where is your competitor officially present? And that's mostly going to be the easy part, right? So you're going to check the language selectors on the website. You're going to use the country drop-downs on the website. You're going to look at their subfolders and the URL folders within their website. But then the second step is looking at where they are actually winning. Because you can have a French site that basically gets no traction, and a random market like Brazil or Canada that quietly drives a huge chunk of their traffic. So when you check traffic distribution per country, you're looking for a simple pattern. If one market drives a large share of organic traffic, that's rarely accidental, because that market is a priority and it's likely profitable, because nobody is investing money for fun without a return, right? So it's kind of makes sense. And you also spot the opposite thing here. So markets where they do exist but get a tiny amount of traffic, it's then often a failed experiment or an afterthought. It's not really important for them. And it's important to look at these opposites and at the important things. So this single step helps you shortlisting which markets are worth for deeper analysis. It shows you where they're actually investing the most amount of their money, and it also shows you where they are lacking focus. This single step alone can help you shortlist which markets are worth for deeper analysis, and you can also see which ones you need to skip. So you can utilize Ahrefs for this. So just an example, one of the biggest finance players around the world, Wise.com, you can pretty much see where their countries are currently focused on. So they target pretty much every country around the world, and you can easily see where most of their traffic comes from. And an interesting one to see here right now is, for example, their Spanish subfolder, which has 7 million monthly visitors. You would think maybe Spain is the biggest one, but actually Colombia is the top location for the Spanish subfolder, which is kind of interesting. And in that sense, you can find a lot of these valuable insights within Ahrefs itself. The second step is another important one. It's where international SEO actually gets fun and where most brands get it absolutely wrong. Because the same products can have totally different search behavior in different countries. So not just language differences, but different terms entirely. So a classic example is in the US, you can search for running shoes, while in the UK, you are searching for trainers. Same product, but different keyword universe. And sometimes it gets extreme, like slang terms that have real search volume locally. So when you pull competitor keywords by country, you are not just looking at what they're ranking at, you're also learning. You're also seeing what customers in that country actually call the product, what intent shows up in these markets. So is it mostly commercial? Is it informational? Is it comparison driven? And which topics actually drive demand? So this is one of the main reasons why translation-only strategies just totally fail, because if you translate keywords instead of doing local research, you end up optimizing for terms that nobody actually searches for in that market, and you will get no traffic at all. So your competitor keyword list becomes your actual shortcut. It shows you what is already working, and it also shows you the gap between their coverage and yours. And just to clarify a little bit more, look at the pattern that you can see, for example, in Australia, where searching for bin chicken, which is the slang word of ibis bird in Australia, gets you 12K searches, while ibis gets you actually 0 traffic. So just to emphasize, localize your keyword research, do your market research per country, because otherwise you're going to just fail miserably. And also don't translate everything, because you're going to fail as well. Just do your local research and base your strategy on that. All right, guys. So the third step, content gaps. And this is one of the easiest places to win. Here's what you're checking. So you check how much content exists per market. How deep does this content go? And is this content localized or is it just translated? Because there is a huge difference here. Like, translation is swapping words and localization is adapting for how people in that country actually think, search, and then buy. And you'll often find a competitor, for example, that has a strong English content engine, a decent German section, and then a nearly empty French section. And that is actually a gift, because thin content in a market tells you that they are not all in and that they might be vulnerable in that market. So the more search engines get stricter about low quality, duplicated or lazy content, the more these types of translation only strategies leak rankings over time. So your job is actually pretty simple. It is finding a market where competitors are underinvesting in content quality and entering them with real localized depth. So to make a little summary is, do a content volume check, do a quality assessment there, and then do the topic coverage analysis to see, okay, how fast can we go above the thresholds the competitors have? Because that is the way to scale fast, and it is also the way to really dominate a market where your competitors are lacking. Then we will move on to the actual fourth step in the framework, and that is local authority. And for local authority, there are a few things that are very important. So every country has unique backlinks, right? So in the Dutch market, you have specific backlinks. In the French market, you have specific backlinks. What works in the Netherlands doesn't work in France. What works in the US doesn't work in France, or can work a bit in France. So it's all locally defined. So the first thing that I would always say is, if you are checking competitors in a certain local market, extract their complete backlink profile and look at a few factors. So how much percentage-wise of their backlinks are from international sources? So for example, from .com domains, from .eu domains, from .net domains, because this really helps you with seeing, okay, how much international links can we, for example, build? And it can also tell you, for example, if you have you are a brand in the French market and you see that in the top 80% of the websites that rank have more than 80% English backlinks within English content, that directly is a factor to tell you that, okay, we can easily invest in international links as well with English context, because this works in France. It immediately shows you what type of backlinks work. And then on the other side of that is, if you see that they have about 80% plus of .fr links in French, yeah, then you know that you really need to have local authority and French backlinks. And that's very important because per country, the types of backlinks can really vary. So for example, in the Netherlands, where I'm from, we have startpagina's, which is basically directory links on scale, and pretty much every Dutch website has these directory type of links. But if you are going to use them in a French market or in a German market, these links do nothing at all. Whilst in the Netherlands, they are absolutely necessary as a baseline to be in general the same as your competitors. So that's an important one. But also, if you, for example, look at the ease of acquiring backlinks per country, that can also hugely vary. So if you are in a Scandinavian country, for example, like Sweden or Norway or Finland, it will be way harder to acquire backlinks on scale because there is just less available on the market. That really defines what types of link building strategies you can utilize. And for example, if you are in Sweden and almost all Swedish websites have Swedish links, then you need to think, okay, how can I acquire these and what do they cost? What are maybe out of the box ideas I can utilize to make a mix between Swedish backlinks and, for example, US backlinks to bridge that gap maybe, because it can be kind of tough in these kind of countries to do this on scale. It is super important to look at that. And another part that is important is look at the quality. So do these competitors have directory links? Do they have blog links or even PBN links? Do they have low quality spam links? Do they have high quality advertorials or PR placements? Can you see link velocity increasing structurally month by month by month by month? And with what type of quality does this link velocity increase? So those are all very important factors to, on the one side, you can see how you should structure your strategy, what works. But on the other side of that is you can see how fast you need to do this. And you can also see what kind of budgeting you need to do to be able to beat them there. So all those factors are very important if you want to scale in a local market. And a thing that I would like to emphasize again is it's pretty well known in the SEO industry is if you are doing link building, then quality goes over quantity. So one major French newspaper link can outweigh 100 random directory links. And it could be very interesting if you, for example, see some established French competitors that did not expect you to scale there, and they have a low quality link profile because they don't really expect anybody else to compete. Well, if you then enter and you directly invest in quality and you can do that relatively on scale, you can even outperform existing local players pretty easily. So super important factor, and it's one of the main reasons, if you don't nail all this, it's one of the main reasons why you're either stuck on the second page, third page. Sometimes you are in the top 10, but it's not really easy to compete with the top 5 in the market. Then most of the times, local authority is one of the main reasons for underperformance. At the end, step 5, we have now discussed 4 steps that you really need to look at. And step 5 is thus the decision moment. So in step 5, you are going to choose your market strategically. So this is where you basically stop asking what's the biggest market, and you basically start asking how and where can we win in the fastest and most easy way while we make the most money. And here is the simple formula: market size times competitor weakness times our ability to execute. Because market size alone is a trap, because a huge market that's brutally competitive can burn your budget for a year. And a smaller market where competitors are weak can become profitable in months, sometimes even in a quarter. So what you're hunting for is the sweet spot: clear demand, visible competitor investment, but obvious weaknesses in content depth, localization, or local authority. And that is basically how you expand like a strategist and not like a gambler that just goes with gut feeling and thinks, hey, we're gonna scale into this country and it will all come true. Another thing that I would like to emphasize, which is very important, is let's say that you are already an established e-commerce brand and you have, for example, presence in the UK and you are very authoritative there. You have a high amount of existing authority already. Then, well, the equation might change a bit because you will take existing authority across other countries and then the game will be much easier. Although you still need to work especially on content localization and local site architecture, because if that sucks, yeah, your authority will also not do anything because you will just target the wrong queries, the wrong keywords, the wrong topics. But the link building aspect will then be substantially easier. So if you now would look at, okay, what is the checklist I really need to check off, then it's 1, identify competitor markets and traffic distribution. 2, pull top keywords per country because those local terms actually matter a lot. 3, audit content depth and localization quality. 4, check the backlink profile of your competitors for local authority gaps. And then 5, choose your market based on opportunity and not just on size. Do this for 2 or 3 competitors and you'll have more market intelligence than most brands get from months of testing. So this is just simply because you're not testing anymore. You're following what's already proven and you are entering where competitors are vulnerable. So I hope this presentation and video have given you a lot of insights in the 5-step framework to gather competitive intelligence within your international SEO strategy. As mentioned in the beginning of the video, I have prepared a lot of frequently asked questions and I have answered them within this certain presentation. And I think it will be taking too long to go through all of them, but I will export this presentation and I will share it in the description so you can easily access it, check out the presentation yourself, think about it a little bit more, and then you can also easily scroll to the frequently asked questions section where I give a lot more insights, and you might have questions after this video and I'm quite sure I will answer them within this frequently asked questions section. Brands that succeed internationally make smart decisions based on what's already working in their market. Your competitors have spent the money testing these markets and you should use that intelligence. Don't expand globally with a blindfold on when your competitor already left breadcrumbs. Follow them and then beat them where they're weak. If you found this valuable, drop a comment and tell me which country you're most excited to tackle next, because I read every single one of them. And if you want us to analyze your specific situation and build out your international roadmap, that link is in the description. Let's turn competitor intelligence into your unfair advantage. Thanks for watching.